All right. All right, just let me shake off the cobwebs. I've never done anything like this before, so I'm nervous.
You're nervous.
A little bit, because it is my favorite horror
Don't
movie of
worry.
all time, pretty much. I mean, Dog Soldiers is #1 for me when it comes to horror movies, so this is a big deal.
Well, I'm sorry to be ruining it for you.
No, you're not
Are you sure
ruining it.
you sure you want to pull back the curtain?
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, sweet. Here we go. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm here with Brian Patrick O'Toole, and he was heavily involved in making my favorite horror movie of all time, Dog Soldiers. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Dean, what's going on?
Oh, like I was just saying, I'm a little bit nervous because it is my favorite horror movie. I'll never forget the first time I saw it, and I've always been a big werewolf fan, monster movies in general. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I know a lot of people go to American Werewolf in London, The Howling, stuff like that, and I love those movies. But just maybe, the situation the characters are in, the setting of it, the design of the werewolves, this great script and great cast, all that stuff. I mean, it's just a big one for me. So it's up to you, man. You can start wherever you want to start. Maybe if you can, maybe start how it sort of came to be, or it's up to you. I'll let you roll with it.
Right. Well, we had just started a production company called Kismet, and we were looking for our first feature. And so at the time, I was the development guy.
Yeah.
So I'm the one that has to find the projects. So basically, I went through literally, I'll say like 300 scripts.
Wow.
And I used to make a joke, if there was ever an atomic explosion, I would never feel it with all the scripts that were against the walls. I received Dog Soldiers, and as a writer myself, when I was reading scripts, because I originally started out as a literary agent.
Right.
And so my job was to find material and sell material, and so I had a kind of a good eye of what needed to be. And so when I was working at the studios, they have a rule: you read the first 10 pages, the middle 10 pages or 20 pages, and the last 10 pages. Because basically you have to read like 8 scripts a day.
Yeah.
If you want to get paid. But I couldn't do that. Because I'm a writer, and I know sometimes movies are slow turners, and you have to wait for it.
Yeah.
And that's what was with Dog Soldiers. Now, it's my understanding that Neil Marshall was trying to sell it for like about 8 years, and there were no buyers. And the reason is that it was written very, very character driven.
Yeah.
And at the time, which is 2000, horror films were like Scream and stuff, where they're fast paced and self aware and stuff like that. And so Dog Soldiers was different, because it really stuck with the characters, but there was a lot of it. There was a lot about girls,
Yeah.
and there was a lot about the footy.
Yeah.
Now, what happened is that all of that stuff got paid off in the script, but it took forever, because when Cooper talks about the girlfriend and stuff, and then he has the final confrontation with Megan, there was more meat to it, because you kind of knew Cooper's past.
Yeah.
But that all got cut out.
Ah.
That all got removed because it just was dragging the movie down.
Uh-huh.
The other problem with it is that it relied really heavily on the Night of the Living Dead structure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, the skeleton was Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Because what happens? People are attacked by zombies and run to a farmhouse for shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens in Dog Soldiers? People are attacked by werewolves, and then they board up the farmhouse so the zombies can't get in.
Yeah.
What do they do in Dog Soldiers? They board it up. Then they fight off the monsters with Molotov cocktails, and then they go for gas, and the Jeep blows up, and somebody gets torn up. Well, that was Day of the Dead, but somebody gets torn up and says "choke on them," and then there's a line in Dog Soldiers that says "choke on them." So And there was a lot more.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is a lot of it remained.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. And because all good movies have a trace of a classic movie in them.
Yeah.
For example, let's say Peter. Sorry, gave it away. Lost Boys.
Oh yeah.
Lost Boys is Peter Pan because the head vampire is looking for a mother for his boys, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Lost Boys was? So, or how about? Did you see Mortal Kombat?
Oh, the original? Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know what famous story that really is?
Oh, it's been a while since I've seen it. You have to remind me.
It's the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
Because three friends take a vortex to another world to kill the witch.
Yeah.
Right. That's basically what happens. So what I'm trying to say, and Pretty Woman is Cinderella. You know what I'm saying? So if you can weave in a familiar structure, audiences subconsciously become familiar with it.
And feel more comfortable watching
story.
it. Yeah.
So it's a good structure. When I was teaching screenwriting at seminars, that was just something I would do. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that. So anyway, I had to pitch the story to the guys basically, and I put my job on the line. They were like, "Well, the last good werewolf movie was Werewolf in London, and that was like 1981, and I'm like, but this is different. This is Night of the Living Dead with werewolves, basically, is how I pitched it. And literally, I remember I was in a glass, they call it the fishbowl. I had everyone staring at me, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna do this movie, but it's your job. If it fails, you're out of a job." And I'm like, "Oh." But I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
But I really believed in it. I believed because the material lived beyond the similarities to Night of the Living Dead and some other movies. So they agreed, and we went to London. It was January of 2001, and we met and we talked about it, and Neil agreed to make some changes, and so March 11th, 2001, we started filming. And it rained. Actually, you're having a horrible rain there right now, aren't you?
We are, yeah. We've had some storm action for the last 2 weeks, maybe longer. It's pretty non-stop.
Yeah, it's all that hairspray from the 80s coming back.
It's coming back.
But it's coming back. Sorry, that's my Chicago accent. It comes out once in a while. But we actually ended up filming in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And so that the farmhouse, we had to build that.
Oh, right.
The exterior, and then we built it on the Earl of Luxembourg's land.
Yeah.
And but the interiors, they were filmed at the Carousel Studio. But the location conditions were horrible.
Oh, damn.
And the poor actors, because, with all that rain, they couldn't even stand up.
Yeah.
They had all that army gear, and they're braving the elements. They actually look like a squad,
Oh, yeah, it's believable.
They kind of stuck together. So that helped with the realism.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, we filmed for 6 weeks. It rained and rained and rained. Yeah, so that's basically how it happened. So I totally put my job on the line for that movie, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it worked out. Unfortunately, so here's the problem, is that when it was released in the UK, I think it was like the #1 film until Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Kicked it out, but it was doing really well. But unfortunately, we showed the film in the U.S. to a bunch of prospective buyers on September 12th, 2001.
Uh-huh. Yikes.
What happened on September 11th, 2001?
Yikes.
So nobody's buying soldiers, no one's buying werewolves, no one's buying anything. In fact, this woman from Sony comes up to me. She's like, very interesting movie. But we're focusing on the Corky Romano franchise. Corky Romano franchise? You know, that stupid mob comedy? You know, I'm like, this is how Hollywood is. It's just like stupid. So we ended up having to sell the film to the Sci-Fi Channel for like nothing. And they had it for 15 years. So they just showed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did, because that's where the audience came. And I remember we were at Comic-Con in 2004 to support two other horror films that I had just made, Boo and Cemetery Gates.
Yeah.
But we had one of the suits of the werewolves stuffed. So we brought that along, and people were just like they were like crazy for it. And I hadn't realized, because we went on, because you know, it ended up being a failure, and yes, I almost lost my job because it didn't do well here.
Yeah.
And that, you know what, that's like every classic movie. Like Wizard of Oz didn't do well when it first came out. It's a Wonderful Life didn't do well when it first came out. You know, it just sort of like people find it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and they make it their own. And that's what's really cool for me, because like at Comic-Con, people were coming up to me and they were showing me like tattoos.
Oh wow.
They'd have like of the werewolf, or one of the werewolves on there, and it was like crazy.
Excellent.
I'm like, wow. That's like the greatest compliment. Anyway, the other thing. So while we're filming, so each of those werewolf heads, they cost about $30,000 each, right? And they were like the heads were like vacuum formed, and there was like 24 servos in them. So it took 2 animatronic operators per werewolf head.
Wow.
To wiggle the ears, drop the jaw, lift the nose, curl the lips, squint the eyes, and bare the teeth. And how much of that did you actually see in the movie? None, because they never worked. The last day of filming, which is when I forget the character's name gets killed on the Jeep and his head gets cut off. That's the only time you see the werewolf snarl or do anything. Because the heads never worked. And another problem with the werewolves was you know, they were on stilts.
Yeah.
The legs were like stilt extensions built from the ankle point. So werewolves were like 7.5 feet tall. But the problem is that we used dancers inside the werewolves.
Very graceful.
We should have used mimes. Because dancers have a fluidity to their movement. And a mime actually creates character. I know it sounds like a weird difference, but it did make a difference, because if you were to see the outtakes or the stuff, you know, sometimes the werewolves like looked like Diana's Ross and the Supremes. Like they were just like moving wild, and you know, so you know, when we edited, you know, we had to cut a lot of, which is better, you know, the less is more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the scenes when they're in the house and they're looking out the window and the werewolves are just kind of lurking in the trees, just waiting for them to slip up so they can grab one of them. I mean, they show them just for little flashes and stuff, but it's really effective, even though I guess the animatronics weren't working at those shots, but still, I mean, I never would have noticed, to be honest. I always, you know, just assumed that they were working fine, and the shots are great, really atmospheric. You know that one where Spoon, the werewolf, is on the other side of the Jeep and it drags its claws across the glass? That is really creepy. That's amazing.
Right. That's what I call the Jaws school of editing.
Yeah.
Because the shark never worked either.
Yeah.
And so they really couldn't do. So actually, they had to rely on the character. We had to rely on character more than we had planned to, because the werewolf didn't work. The heads and stuff, so we couldn't use. And then plus them moving was kind of comical. You know, I mean, if you look at some movies, you just take the music out. If you take the music out of Halloween, that's just some guy walking down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other elements that go into a movie that are really, important. But it really was. That movie was made in editing. It really was.
Well, they've done a damn good job.
No disrespect to all the other people involved, but it was really made in editing.
Well, like you're saying about the characters and stuff, I mean, the script is so good, the characters were so sort of likable, you sort of feel like you're really with them. So it made the sort of more fantastical element, of the werewolves. I think I'm literally quoting Neil Marshall it's just drilled into my head from watching the special features and the DVD over the years. But it did make it more believable when the werewolves did show up, because you really were, you felt invested in everything that they were going through.
There's a lot of slang. In fact, they wanted to put subtitles at one point on the movie,
like Trainspotting,
when it came to the U.S.
like
Trainspotting. It was like, in fact, I think Artisan put out the original release of Dog Soldiers, and I think they did Trainspotting too. Well, anyway, they wanted to put, because there was so much slang, and I had a problem with it too, because I didn't know what what is it, the lemon one, lemon squeezy. I had no idea what that was. I was like,
easy peasy lemon squeezy or something. Yeah.
I had never heard that before in my life. I was like, what is this? And there was some other ones too, and but you have to trust the director's vision. And I was like, okay, if that's how they would talk, that's how they would talk. And I get it. But I almost screwed that up, because I was like, well, can we make it more international? Like, not have that?
No, I know what you mean. It does feel very British, the script, like you say, the slang and the things they're saying. I often, because I suggest watching Dog Soldiers to a lot of American friends, just through what I do on YouTube and stuff, and I just, they always get back to me and say, I wish it had subtitles. I mean, they really love the movie, but there is a lot of very British kind of dialogue in there, and I'm aware of it when I'm watching it. I'm thinking, wow, the American people might not know what that means, or, but it's effective though. I mean, it's true. It's true to how they would have been, I guess, in real life, because they are British squad, soldiers and stuff. But can you talk about the film title, the how it was like originally, the Night of the Werewolves?
Right. Well, because it echoed Night of the Living Dead so much.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people see a movie, they think they can make a movie, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, they wanted to flesh the obvious. And I was like, no, you don't want to draw attention to the skeleton of the movie. Because I was trying to lessen that.
Yeah.
And that's why the pacing is so quick in the movie too. Was, we were trying to, because if you really, now that I've ruined it for you, now you're going to watch it and go, yeah, this is Night of the Living Dead. I mean, even the hero goes in the basement at the end.
Yeah.
Although he survives,
yeah,
like Night of the Living Dead, it's still Night of the Living Dead. But again, I want to repeat, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. No, absolutely.
Because it does subconsciously go in your, it makes the movie familiar.
Yeah.
It's just a writer's thing. But, I always tell new writers, try to do that. Try to take a famous fairy tale or something and kind of weave it in there.
Yeah.
So, because people, you'd be surprised. Anyway, that's just because I was a screenwriting teacher. So. Well,
how did the people react, like everyone in charge, when the title Dog Soldiers came up? Because, I mean, it doesn't exactly scream werewolf straight away, does it? It's a bit more...
Well, we actually almost had to change it because there's a book called Dog Soldiers, which ended up being a movie called Who Can Stop the Rain? But the original title of that was Dog Soldiers. And so we thought for sure we were going to get sued. Like Cemetery Gates, I'll never forget. So that movie's about a mutated Tasmanian devil that
of a high kill count
woods and kills 17 people in 90 minutes. I'm very proud of that picture. Anyway, we got a letter, and I somewhere I want to frame it. just telling us that we can't use the Tasmanian Devil because they've spent decades with that character and da da da. And I'm like, you can't copyright an animal.
Yeah.
And it was no way near their cartoon character.
Yeah, I know.
In fact, I wanted to make a reference to it, but I want Warner Brothers on my butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like everybody's so litigious. It's really scary. But yeah, so it was. I have a couple of posters with Night of the Werewolves as the title.
Oh wow, nice.
So yeah, it got that far that it was almost called that.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, you can't call it that. And but I was worried because like Dog Soldiers, like I said, that other book that became a movie, they changed it because they didn't think anybody would get it.
Mm.
But if you look at all of my movies, they're all a little twisted. They're all a little different. Like we did Neo Ned with Jeremy Renner.
Okay, yeah.
And he plays a neo-Nazi who gets put in a nut house, who falls in love with a black girl who thinks she has the spirit of Hitler inside of her.
Damn.
Right. So, but it was supposed to be a comedy. Unfortunately, the director took it a little too seriously.
Oh, okay.
But Jeremy Renner and Gabrielle Union, they were both phenomenal.
Yeah. I have to see that. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, no, it has its moments, but it really was supposed to be funnier.
Yeah.
And it gets a little serious, but Jeremy and Gabrielle and all the supporting cast.
Yeah.
Sally Kirkland plays the mother.
Mm.
She's amazing. So yeah. But all of my films, I try to be, because I'm a horror fan, since birth.
Yeah.
And I've seen them all. So I really, you want to be a little original.
Yeah.
You want something that hasn't been seen before. And basically werewolf movies up to that point were all about the transformations.
Yeah.
Because what do werewolves really do? Have you ever seen one do something? Like in the original Wolfman, like people just faint. I mean, I'm not sure what was happening, and you know what I'm saying? It was like, so I wanted to go into the pack mentality.
Yeah.
That was something that I brought to Dog Soldiers, was that I wanted Sergeant Ryan and Megan to know each other.
Okay.
I wanted there to be a family thing.
Yeah.
And I wrote a sequel to it and 2 prequels because it was hot. Dog Soldiers was hot.
Yeah.
Sci-Fi Channel was getting great ratings on it.
Yeah.
And they wanted something, but Neil had moved on to The Descent and something, and so he couldn't do it, or I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah.
And so my sequel took place right where the other one ended.
Nice.
Because I think that's what sequels should do.
Yeah, like Halloween.
They should continue the story. It's like Halloween 2 was a perfect sequel to me because it's more of the night he came home, and Phantasm 2 was right after Michael gets pulled into the mirror. It was like, that's what I think a sequel is. So basically my story was that there was a third party that was there that were supposed to have the war games.
Oh, the American squad? Yeah.
Yeah, the Americans. And they find Cooper and the dog.
Mm.
And it sort of takes off from there. And it's the old, the Van Helsing story where, again, taking from a classic thing, is that, Cooper knows what's out there. No one's believing him. And the moon's about to rise again.
Yeah.
And we didn't see Ryan die. We saw him,
Yeah, kind of fall over.
We didn't see, and we don't know what happened to the other squad. Remember, they go there and they see all the blood and mayhem.
Yeah.
But what happened to those guys?
Yeah, there was no bodies.
stuff like that. Yeah. So actually, in the original script, when they happen upon Ryan's camp, that was a bigger scene. There's a scene where Cooper is getting water out of a creek, and all of a sudden blood starts to run down the creek.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember when they're camping and the Highland cow comes crashing down?
Yeah, no one can forget
that was originally supposed to be a grizzly bear.
Oh, right, okay.
But the reason that I didn't want it to be a grizzly bear was going back to the pack mentality. Because if the werewolves killed the grizzly bear, it meant that they were defending.
Yeah.
If they killed the cow, they were eating. And that's why when they come in the farmhouse, there's water boiling.
Yeah.
You know, so there was, but that whole thing got cut. So,
well, there's one thing that's always kind of, I found it's really dark and twisted, but it's just a connection to like the werewolves that are in the original Howling movie. The way when the person turns into the werewolf, they're still kind of in control of the beast. You know, it's like, you know, David in American Werewolf in London, when he transforms, he blacks out, wakes up the next morning and doesn't know what he did until he sees it on the news. But the werewolves in Dog Soldiers, you know, the people kind of, you know, they toy with the victims. They try to scare them as much as possible. And you know the character, Terry Milburn, the guy who gets dragged through the window and then taken into the barn? Because like a good bit of time passes and we thought, you know, everyone watching it thinks he just gets killed when he gets dragged out of the window. But the werewolf actually has him in the barn for a good 15, almost 20 minutes. And he's still alive in there with the werewolf. And it's just really twisted to think what was going on in that barn for like 15 minutes. Was he just toying with him? And did you ever like talk about that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was more. I think there was more to that. I'm trying to think now.
It has been a while.
There were so many drafts of the script. I know it's going to be like 20 years.
Yeah.
Next year it's going to be 20 years. Jeez. But yeah. I mean, the whole idea was that the werewolves were a family. They were a pack.
Yeah.
That's why Ryan looks at Megan, and that's why, you know, Megan says my favorite line, which is, "You might think they're all bitches, but I'm the real thing." She turns into a werewolf. You know, it's like, because that goes back. See, that line would have been, I don't know, stronger had we left in all that stuff about the footy and the women and stuff. I mean, we did compromise, and there was a little talk about spider women during the campfire.
Oh yeah.
But actually, there was a lot more to it. But people got it. And that's what I was trying to convince these guys, is that we're working in a visual medium, so you should be able to turn the sound off on any movie, and know exactly what's going on, because dialogue should only further character. It should never further story.
Yeah.
And so all that talking to me was just people sitting around blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they compromised a little bit, but
as far as like their whole like awareness of, I mean, was it ever talked about? Should they just sort of? Well, I suppose not, because it's like you say with the transformation scene. Obviously, it was a low budget horror film, but I like the way they kind of. It's like this kind of aware of itself. The way Ryan, when he does transform, he just falls to the ground, and the camera kind of stays on the people watching what's happening. We hear the sounds, but we don't see it. And that never bothered me, because I knew it's a low budget movie, and sometimes some of the best horror movies are low budget. I mean, a lot of them, to be honest.
Well,
it never bothered me.
You know, but we can never top your imagination.
Yeah.
No filmmaker will ever top. So less is more. And so, and that's a brilliant excuse. But the truth is that we didn't have the money for transformation. So we had to do what we had to do. But, you know, in horror, you can cover your eyes or you can cover your ears. You can't do both.
Yeah.
So... You know, so the sound was really important in Dog Soldiers too, which is, again, my greatest regret is that nobody will ever see this in the theater. And that movie was made for the theater. It really was, and it was made for an audience. I was so lucky to see it with audiences.
Yeah,
you know,
How about the design of the
20 years ago.
werewolves? Like, as far as the way the werewolves looked, was that ever a big debatable thing, or was it always from the beginning they were going to look the way they looked on film, or?
No. I remember Dave Bonniwell. He was on the werewolf design team,
Yeah.
and they basically said these monsters, these werewolves, are going to be demonic hybrids of man and wolf. That was their whole goal.
Yeah.
So they wanted to keep the heads looking as wolfish as possible.
Yeah.
But the muscle toned bodysuit, that was, I think that's where critics were getting the alien thing. They said, "Oh, it looks like Alien." I never got that. I don't know where they got Alien.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that at all. I mean, I got that from the kind of squad, the soldier kind of aspect of it, It's like, obviously, the Marines, the soldiers. I mean, it was compared to Predator as well.
Yeah, I guess so, but I never really got the, everyone, it's like Alien. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they look like the alien at all.
No.
But anyway, yeah, so the werewolf team, like I said, they did an amazing job. Unfortunately, the heads didn't work.
Yeah.
They never worked except the last day.
Damn. So how much did you have to, like, what was the focus? Like, obviously, when the guy gets killed in the Jeep and the door opens and he's snarling. So is that, like, the main shot that was achieved with the animatronic heads, or did you have to go back and kind of...
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope, that was it. And that was like the last day of shooting.
God damn, man. That must have been really frustrating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? But you know what? Again, back to Jaws.
Yeah.
I think if the shark worked,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been such a great movie.
Yeah, because you would have seen a lot more of it.
Yeah, exactly. And they would have wanted to do more with it. Like, just seeing the dorsal fin break the water is the most chilling thing of that movie. When it's going down the pond towards the kids, to this day, it still gives me chills.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that movie a million times.
Yeah.
Literally a million times, I'm sure. And it's still good because it's just like, it's my imagination.
Yeah.
I know what's underneath. My imagination's telling me what's underneath that water.
Yeah.
So I think that was a blessing for Dog Soldiers that they didn't work, or they rarely worked. I think it. Like I said, that movie was made in editing. No insult to all the other people working on the film, but in the end, it was the editing.
Do you have a favorite moment or anything in the movie, a part that you sort of enjoy the most, or that was the funnest part for you, like as far as your involvement in getting it done and seeing it come to reality and all that?
Yeah, it's weird because I can't enjoy any of my movies because I see the mistakes.
Yeah.
Like when the three werewolves come into the kitchen, if you look, they're holding on to the ceiling.
The ceiling,
they have to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So that drives me crazy every time.
You know what though? You know the bit when Cooper and Sarge are upstairs and they throw the grenade down the sort of hallway, and the werewolves are kind of, there's a lot of smoke in the hallway, but the werewolves in that scene, like where they're kind of crouching down and coming towards that toilet that they're hiding in, that looked amazing, man. I mean, they look great to me on film. I know, like you say, it's all in the editing, but there was. Like, there's the moment, like you say, where you can see the werewolf kind of holding onto the ceiling as it's walking towards the end there. And like, there's bits where you see him kind of running through the trees just after they've transformed and stuff, when the soldiers are just trying to basically get away from them. Like, that was intense. And the whole point of view thing as well was really cool. The way they see in black and white. Right.
Well, that's the old dogs can only see black and white. Yeah. That's...
it's a nice touch.
That's a difference. But, I'm one of those people. I don't like creature point of views. I'm the kind of guy I'd rather see you and I talking, because I'm very Hitchcockian with suspense. So I would rather see you and I talking, and all of a sudden the monster comes behind us and just walks by, and the audience goes, turn around.
It's creepy.
There's because if you go when you go into the creature's point of view, you break the rhythm. Because now you're the participant. You're not the watching it. Yeah. Like in Cemetery Gates, that's why I didn't use any creature point of view, because I was like, no, I'd rather have the audience see the monster and go, turn around.
Yeah.
I mean, it works in dogs. So listen, it works in, other films use it. I just personally, it's like flashbacks.
Yeah.
I don't like flashbacks in movies because it pulls you right out of the story. It pulls you, and they rarely, you learn a little more about characters, but again, it's not a book. It's a movie.
Yeah.
And a movie has separate rules. So, but that's just my own thing about flashbacks and creature point of view. Now, stalker movies, that's different.
Yeah.
I want to be Jason. How annoying are those kids? I'm gonna stab them too.
Yeah.
So I have no problem putting the hockey mask on.
Yeah.
Again, there's exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, I'm not a big fan of creature point of view.
I'll just talk about Halloween for a second. Is Halloween one of your favorite franchises? I remember reading.
Well, it was until that Abomination came out like 2 years ago.
You didn't like? Oh, obviously
Halloween.
because you.
Oh my! Don't.
You like Halloween 2, the original 81, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't. I guess
But
a lot of people are pissed off.
The new one. And I'm gonna tell you where that went wrong. Okay.
Do it.
There was one scene that destroyed the whole movie. I mean, forget the crazy doctor that wants Michael Myers to say a word, something.
Yeah.
What's he gonna say? Happy Halloween, trick or treat? Shut up. But when Michael Myers goes into that lady's house, which is a ripoff of
Part 2, yeah.
the scene in Halloween 2 where she's making a sandwich for her husband.
Yeah.
You want mayonnaise on your sandwich? He kills her, then he walks by the baby. Okay?
Yeah.
Michael Myers, now they're forgetting now all the other movies that existed, so they're just going by the first movie, right?
Yeah.
This reboot or whatever it's called. Because Michael Myers didn't kill the baby, that showed that he could make an empathetic choice. And that is not the embodiment of evil. I'm not saying everyone should kill babies. That's not what. But he should have shish kebabbed it, because that's what Michael Myers would have done.
Yeah, or just not have a baby there at all.
Not even have the stupid baby. So now you've orphaned the baby.
Yeah.
What the?
It's messed up.
Well, what is that? And then that movie was horrible. And then we were promised that was going to end it. And now they're making 2 more.
Yep.
So insert cash register at this point. Ching, because that's all they're doing now. And I've lost complete respect for the franchise because they're doing that. I mean, didn't the Trading Places money last, Jamie Lee? Did you really need to make another Halloween movie? I mean, H2O,
Gosh, yeah.
It's just sad. It's really sad what that franchise became. Because it's just a money grab now. So don't get me started on the new Chubzilla movies. Don't even start. Ask me another question.
Well, I wonder what's going on with Jason and Freddy and stuff. I mean, there was rumors that Robert Englund's going to come back and do it one more time, but I remember him saying he was done. So I don't know.
No. Well, the coolest thing is that at the 2004 Comic-Con, I got to be one of the judges at the Masquerade Ball.
Oh, okay.
And so was Robert Englund.
Oh, right.
And Robert Englund came up to me and said how much he liked Dog Soldiers.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, holy crap.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, John Carpenter also was.
Wow.
And Groening. Who created The Simpsons?
Oh, Matt Groening? Yeah.
Yeah, he also told me.
Oh, wow.
But I'll tell you, the greatest thing is that Guillermo del Toro came to our booth and saw the Dog Soldiers and said how much he liked it.
Yeah.
And then he invited me to dinner with one of the other producers.
Yeah.
And through that, I got to work with George Romero.
Oh, wow.
So through that brief thing. So everyone should go to Comic-Con. because magical things happen at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how, you know, so through that stupid little statue, I got to work with my like the greatest director.
Yeah.
Because Dawn of the Dead, the original one, not Yawn of the Dead. I cannot believe when people say that they like that movie. It drives me crazy.
Are you talking about the Zack Snyder one?
Oh.
Or is that
Don't even say that name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so remember theaters? Remember these dollar theaters where you saw movies like Phantasm and Terror Train together for $1, or you saw, you know, Piranha and Tentacles.
Mm.
Kids will never know that.
Yeah.
Never know. Because there was a theater by me called the Montclair Theater, and I saw some classic crap at that dollar theater.
Mm.
I Spit on Your Grave, American Hot Wax, all these films that you would never see.
Mm.
And these kids, they don't know, you know. And now I sound old, but I kind of wish that, you know, there would be more of these revival theaters.
Yeah.
Because you got to see Alien on the big screen. You got to see Jaws on the big screen.
Yeah.
They're different movies, you know. You got to see Dog Soldiers on the big screen.
God, I wish I could.
It's like when the bullets are flying in the woods and the werewolves are chasing them, and it's so great.
Yeah.
You know, and the sound design on Dog Soldiers is amazing, and it gets lost. I'm sorry, but it's lost in home video.
Yeah, it's true.
It really is. So anyway,
I never got to see Dog Soldiers in the cinema because I didn't know it was out until it was kind of too late. I was just on a bus and I was going home from a friend's house one night, and I saw it in like my peripheral vision just whiz past me, and I knew from the shadow, because it was the poster with you know, where the werewolf is the shadow that's casted by the soldier. And I just knew, I was like, oh my god, that's a werewolf poster. So I had to track the film down, and this is obviously before, you know, the internet was really intense like it is now. So I had to wait for the video to get released, and you know, and then Blu-ray eventually. But you know, I got the DVD, the Blu-ray, the whole bunch. I buy every copy that I can get. But you were saying about a version that came out in another country. Which country was it again? Like a 4K version?
Yeah, so Germany has a 4K version of it.
Wow.
And I'm like, when did that happen? Because I always take a salary rather than back end.
Uh-huh.
So for all you filmmakers out there, don't take back end. You'll never see a dime. Get paid up front.
Yeah.
Get your Benjamins now. Because you know, it's rarely you see, because there's so many hands in the cookie jar. Your distributor, you know, the actors get paid 5-6 times, the writer gets paid at their union or belong to the guild. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're producing, you know, make sure you get your money up front.
Yeah.
Which I don't even take my own advice, so I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, because I make sure every dime is on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, what am I going to do with any money? I have never had any, so.
Well, how about your new production company? You say it's called Edgewater Mediaworks?
Right, and the horror division is called Witchword Productions. So I had taken a 5-year break, because after Atlas Shrugged, you know, doing those 3 movies and all that stuff, I just became disillusioned, and I was one of the people that got crushed, you know, after when the economy collapsed in 2009. I had just finished Basement Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the economy had just crashed, and so all these people were coming in and buying properties and stuff cheap, and they raised the rents. So I was living in a place that was, and it was high for the time. It was like $850. When I left, it was 13 something, and now I hear it's going for $3,200. And this was a a studio in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't know if you've heard, but LA has a huge homeless problem right now.
Okay.
Because they jacked up all the rents. And I have 2 friends right now living in their cars. Oh, they have jobs.
Yeah.
but they can't afford an apartment.
Gee, man.
And to live
Yeah.
in LA. So, so that was another reason why I left. And so anyway, so it's been about 5 years, and I'm like, I still got a couple of good stories left in me. And so I met this guy, Jason Davitt. He's on your side of the pond.
Okay.
Over in Chester, and amazing filmmaker. He did. There was a vampire series on Sky, and then they expanded it and cut it, and they made 2 movies, or he made 2 movies out of that, and really with no budget. But the wonders that man can do with no money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, marry me. So let's do something. So he and I got together, and then recently I met a writer who has this sense of character that I've never read before. He's a Marine. His name is Matthew Hayes, and he loves horror. He loves mythology, like Norse mythology and stuff like that. So we're working on a werewolf project together.
Oh wow!
So I wanna, it's an exclusive for you, but I want to say it's a spiritual successor to Dog Soldiers, but it's not. It just deals with werewolves.
Wow.
But through Norse mythology, so it's a different take.
Yeah.
That I don't think anyone's ever seen before, and that's the only reason why I'm interested. Because if it's been done before, I'm not interested.
Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome, man.
Dog Soldiers was its own. His own beast. I have another beast I want to introduce the world to. And then we're doing 2 other films. One is called Express. It's about a mummified witch and her familiar that come back. And then there's Fracked, which is about, and these all take place in the UK or whatever it's called now. Because I read some interesting things about your fracking. Things going on in the fracking in the UK, and so I've created a creature feature that takes advantage of some of it. It's sort of like China Syndrome meets I don't know, they're prehistoric parasites that are resurrected.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the film Tremors? Do you like that one, or is that one you don't like?
Yeah, no, I love Tremors. No, I like Tremors. I think they should stop making them now. We get it. And now they want to do a TV series again or something, and I'm like, no, we get it.
I do love the first one.
But again,
the first one's good, damn good. As far as like Dog Soldiers goes, was there any the moment where Ryan does transform and then he jumps through the window? I always wondered, is the bit where he actually crashes through the window, is that the one CGI bit that's in there as far as werewolves go? Or is there no CGI with the werewolves? I know there might have been blood CGI with Megan when she gets shot in the head, but is there any CGI in there?
No.
Yeah, cool.
No, the only CGI I'm aware of were the bullets and the moon.
Ah, okay.
There wasn't. I don't think there was much, but I wasn't involved in that part of it.
Yeah.
As far as I know, see, now I learned something. The blood on her.
There's only 2 moments. CGI? 2 moments in the movie that look CGI. When Megan gets shot, you get the kind of close up as the bullet goes splat in her head. Or also, like I say, when Ryan changes and then he jumps through the boarded up window, and it's so quick, but you see him crash through the window. It's very quick, but I always wondered whether, because that would be difficult to do with a stuntman or whatever, but I don't know.
I don't think that was CGI. You know what? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, I wasn't there for that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good. I'll have to find out now. I don't know who I'll find out from. Somebody will tell me maybe. Yeah. But I have to give credit to Sam McCurdy, who was the cinematographer on Dog Soldiers.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yeah,
he was a director of photography. He made that farmhouse like claustrophobic, like menacing. Like he really lit the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you kind of take it for granted because it was a set.
Yeah.
But he really did a great job lighting it up. Though I'm dying to see that 4K from Germany.
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking for that after this. To be honest, that's the first priority, number one.
Yeah, I think they used that Omen poster that you saw. I call it the Omen poster, where the soldiers shadows the wolf.
Excellent. Yeah, that's one of my favorite posters, man. That's amazing. I love that one.
Yeah, so I call it the Omen poster.
Is there any other bits and pieces you want to mention that you're up to, or stuff that you got in the works, or anything like that?
No, just if everybody can, if you're on Facebook, we're at Edgewater Films. No, yeah, Edgewater Films.
Yep.
The website is www.edgewatermediaworks.com.
Well, yeah,
did you ever you got one of the action figures, didn't you?
I did, yeah, the Sota Toys one, yeah.
Did they send you that, or did you find it?
Well, that one, well, I've got one that's packaged up. I've never opened. I've owned a few over the years, but they do have, because they're quite top heavy, those figures, they have a tendency over the years to kind of lean forward and then break at the knee. So I've got one.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's what happened to mine.
Yeah.
I have two in a package.
Yeah.
Like, I have one from Tower Records. Again, I had to buy them.
Yeah.
No one ever gives me anything. So so one, it was a Tower, so it had blood on it.
Yeah.
And then I have the other one. Then I had a third one that I opened. And yeah, it sort of melted because it is top heavy.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like, and one day it was just sort of like this poor lump on the shelf. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, it's a shame what happened to the company.
Those guys did an amazing job. You know, they went to our office. Jerry over at Soda went to our office and he scanned the werewolf.
Oh, right.
So the werewolf action figure is a complete model. In fact, there was a rip on the elbow, I think. Yeah. And that's in the statue too. That's how well they scanned it.
Wow.
So yeah, they did a great job.
Oh man.
Yeah, I almost lost my job over that too, because I went to McFarlane first. Because in 2001, you know, McFarlane was king of the action figures.
Yeah, yeah.
And they wanted us to pay him, or them, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we're doing you the favor.
Yeah.
You know, but again, see, Dog Soldiers didn't do well in the U.S. Because, like I said, but initially it didn't do well. But yeah, so I did Cemetery Gates with Roy Kinnearum, who was partners with Jerry. I forget his last name. I think it's Mancuso, but I'm not sure. But Jerry, he was running the toy division, and he did a bunch of them. Like, he did Killer Clowns and Darkman and Alien. He did an Alien one, I think, or The Thing. He did The Thing. You know, and I'm like, oh, could you please make an action figure out of Dog Soldiers? And yeah, he said yeah. And you know, I knew we weren't going to make any money on it. It was really just to promote the film. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a loss leader. You know, where, you know, but yeah. So I understand they're really rare to find. That's why I asked you where you got it.
Yeah, I love him, man. I love that figure. I think the sculpt, the paintwork, the fact that they include the diorama with the wall behind him with the bullet holes and the window boarded up, the entrails on the ground, the severed arm. It's a beautiful figure, man. It comes with so much cool stuff. Very, it seems like a lot of passion and heart went into making it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, I was hoping they would add a little spoon as a joke.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that would be cool.
Could you put a little spoon right there?
Yeah, they'll know. Well, I've asked all the questions I had written down. Let me see if there's anything else. That's pretty much everything. So I mean, I'll just wrap up the interview and I'll say goodbye to you probably in a minute, Brian. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the interview with Brian here about Dog Soldiers, and thank you for just taking the time out to talk to me, man. Especially because I'm not an interviewer. I do, you know, mostly review figures on my channel, and that's my main passion, is just models and statues and films that I love and stuff. So, do you collect any of that stuff yourself, like statues and models and stuff?
You have no idea. That's why I like your site so much.
Oh wow, cool.
Because I'm thinking, oh, that's why I should do, because I have like, right now I'm into that whole pop thing.
Oh
which
right,
I know
Funko Pops, yeah.
But I'm like, I just got all of the Iron Maiden ones. Like, I'm just.
And
I'm glad people are still discovering the movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, people are the regulars on my channel. They must be sick of me talking about it. I do live streams every Sunday, and I talk to people just about whatever they want to talk about. But I've literally demanded so many people watch Dog Soldiers, and quite a few of them do, and they always enjoy it when they get back to me. But I mean, since 2002, I've been recommending that film to people. I used to work in a place that sold games and DVDs. And I made so many people buy that movie, and they'd always enjoy it and come back and say thanks for recommending it. Everyone I've ever, everyone's enjoyed it. So, I mean, it definitely stands up.
The weirdest compliment I ever got was I was playing Call of Duty on Xbox, and there was some 12-year-old, because they're all 12-year-olds,
yeah,
and they all have dirty mouths, and they all make me feel inferior. Some 12-year-old was like. Because I have my names on my... Anyway, so I guess he looked me up.
Yeah.
And he goes, did you really make movies? Do you really make movies? He goes, I'm going to look it up. So he looked up Dog Soldiers, and he, while we're playing Call of Duty, he watched the movie. And that's just how weird the whole thing was. And then I'm thinking, wait, you're 12. I don't think you're supposed to be watching that movie. You better ask your parents. You didn't make this. You didn't make it. It was funny anyway. Yeah, so you never know where a new fan's gonna come from, but
and because it's practical effects and it will stand the test of time. All those films do, Predator, Alien, anything where there's a lack of, they get rid of the CGI and they just go with a guy in a suit. If they film it right and, like you say, edit it well, then it will stand the test of time. I think Dog Soldiers will always hold up, to an extent. I mean, obviously, he's touching the ceiling in a certain scene, but I think you forgive it because you can see that it's a low-budget movie, and it's not easy making films. I mean, everyone knows that. So I think you forgive certain things because you can see that, everyone tried their best and it worked in the end. I mean, I think it's, fantastic.
No, I agree. And I'm really kind of glad that there's no sequel.
Yeah.
There's no, because I think it just should stand alone.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those films that will always be, untouchable. But somewhere along the line, I'm sure somebody will buy the rights or something will happen, and
we'll see. What did you think of the Jason game? Did you play the Friday the 13th video game? Did you like it?
Oh, dude, I'm so addicted. I'm still playing it. I have it on my PS4, my Xbox, and my Switch.
I have it on Xbox and PlayStation as well. I got it on both.
Oh, we should play.
Oh yeah, I'm down for that.
I haven't found one freaking tape. I've been playing it since it was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Through 2 years ago when it was all broken.
Oh yeah,
didn't work.
I remember.
I still have not gotten one tape. Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah. The only thing that I don't like about it is the fact that there's a time limit on every mission. I want to be able to just take my time, because Jason wouldn't be rushing. He'd be, hiding in the trees, just watching people, stalking them, and you can't really stalk anyone because of the time limit. That's what pisses me off.
Well, that's because you get buttholes that hide behind trees.
Mm.
And if you didn't have a time limit, you'd be looking for this kid.
I'd enjoy that.
The funniest thing that ever happened was I was playing that game, and again, 12-year-olds, because that's festing it. And all of a sudden, I hear through somebody's microphone, somebody's mother was, "Did you just decapitate that person? What kind of game are you playing?" It was the funniest thing. This kid's like, "Ma, stop embarrassing me, Ma. Oh my God, what are you playing? Turn that off right." It was the funniest thing.